Have you ever noticed that the loudest person in the room is often the weakest? That those who talk too much rarely listen, and those who rarely listen never learn. There's a reason why the wisest people in history mastered the art of silence. What if I told you that staying silent isn't just a habit, but a powerful strategy, one that can make you stronger, more respected, and even more successful? Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you'll understand why silence holds the key to confidence, wisdom, and influence. And if you apply this, everything you desire, clarity, peace, even success, will start coming to you naturally. We live in a world addicted to noise. People talk to prove their worth, argue to show dominance, and fill every second with distractions. But look at history. True leaders, visionaries, and masterminds all had one thing in common. They knew when to speak, and more importantly, when to stay silent. Think about it. The samurai warriors of ancient Japan practiced mokushu, a form of silent meditation, before battle, training their minds to remain unshaken. Warren Buffett, one of the world's greatest investors, spends 80% of his day reading and thinking in complete silence. Even Albert Einstein once said, "The monotony and solitude of a quiet life stimulate the creative mind." Silence isn't weakness. Silence is control. It's power. In this video, you'll discover how silence improves your mental strength and emotional intelligence, the hidden psychological advantages of being the quiet one, how silence makes people respect and even fear you, why the most successful people in the world speak less, but achieve more, and much more. But before we dive in, if you're someone who craves growth, wisdom, and unshakable confidence, then welcome to Denzel Motivation. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a life-changing video. Now let's begin and uncover the power of silence. Before we talk about how silence can transform your life, let's first understand what silence truly is. Most people think silence is just the absence of words, an empty space between conversations. But that's a shallow definition. Silence is much more than the lack of noise. It is a state of mind, a tool for clarity, and a gateway to wisdom. It is in silence that the greatest ideas are born, the sharpest minds are forged, and the deepest realizations occur. Look around. The world is constantly buzzing with distractions, social media notifications, endless debates, news cycles designed to provoke reactions. People are drowning in noise, both external and internal. But those who know the power of silence understand that true control comes from stepping away from the chaos. Silence and mental clarity. In a world full of constant chatter, thinking deeply has become a lost art. Yet the ability to sit in silence and process thoughts is one of the most valuable skills a person can develop. Have you ever noticed that the best ideas don't come when you're talking, but when you're silent? That moment when you're alone, staring out the window, or taking a quiet walk, that's when your mind starts making connections, solving problems, and revealing insights you never considered before. Scientific studies show that silence enhances brain function. In 2013, researchers found that 2 hours of silence per day led to the growth of new brain cells in the hippocampus, the part of the brain responsible for memory and learning. This means that silence is not just a passive experience, it actively reshapes your brain, making you sharper, more creative, and more focused. And yet most people are afraid of silence. They fill every moment with music, conversations, or meaningless noise, not realizing that by doing so, they are cutting themselves off from one of the most powerful tools for mental clarity. Silence and self-reflection. People who constantly talk rarely stop to think. They react instead of reflect. But those who embrace silence know that it creates space for self-examination. Think about the greatest decisions of your life. Did you make them in the middle of loud conversations, or did they come to you when you were alone, thinking deeply? The answer is obvious. Self-reflection requires silence. It allows you to analyze your actions, understand your emotions, and gain insight into your life's direction. This is why some of the most successful people in history have deliberately created moments of silence in their daily routines. Bill Gates, for example, takes what he calls Think Week, 7 days of complete isolation, where he reads, thinks, and reflects. No distractions, no interruptions, just pure silence. And in these quiet moments, he has come up with some of his most revolutionary ideas. If you're constantly talking, constantly engaging, constantly reacting, when do you have time to truly understand yourself? Silence is not just about avoiding noise. It's about creating the mental space needed for growth. Why the great thinkers and leaders chose silence. History proves that those who master silence often achieve the greatest influence. The most powerful leaders, philosophers and strategists, all knew the value of speaking less and thinking more. Take Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and philosopher. He ruled one of the greatest empires in history, yet he practiced daily silent reflection, writing his thoughts in his private journal, which later became meditations. He knew that silence wasn't a weakness, it was a discipline. Or consider Sun Tzu, the legendary military strategist. In The Art of War, he emphasized that silence and observation were key weapons. He wrote, "He who is prudent and lies in wait for an enemy who is not, will be victorious." In other words, the one who listens and observes always has the advantage. Even Abraham Lincoln, known for his powerful speeches, understood that silence was a tool. He was often quiet in meetings, carefully listening before speaking. When asked why he did this, he simply replied, "Better to remain silent and be thought a fool, than to speak and to remove all doubt." What all these figures had in common was simple. They used silence as a strategy, not to hide, not to show weakness, but to gain wisdom, to reflect, and to make every word they spoke carry weight. And the truth is, in today's world, this skill is more valuable than ever. Before we talk about how silence can change the way you think, feel, and act, let's address a simple but overlooked truth. Your mind was never designed to handle constant noise. Every day, your brain is bombarded with distractions, notifications, conversations, background music, news, advertisements. Even when you're not speaking, your mind is processing an overwhelming amount of information. But what happens when you remove the noise? What happens when you embrace silence, instead of running from it? The answer is simple. Your brain starts to heal. Your thoughts become clearer. Your emotions become balanced. And suddenly you start seeing the world and yourself differently. How silence reduces stress and anxiety. Most people think stress comes from external problems, deadlines, conflicts, responsibilities. But stress is often an internal problem, fueled by an overstimulated mind that never gets a break. A study published in Brain Structure and Function found that 2 hours of complete silence per day can lead to the regeneration of brain cells, particularly in the hippocampus, the region associated with memory and emotions. In other words, silence doesn't just relax you, it actively repairs your brain. When there is no external noise, the nervous system calms down, your cortisol levels drop, your heart rate slows, and your body enters a state of recovery. This is why people who spend time in nature, away from city noise, often report feeling mentally refreshed. It's not just the fresh air, it's the silence that heals them. Yet most people do the opposite when they feel stressed. They seek distractions, music, social media, conversations, believing that noise will help them escape their thoughts. But in reality, it only adds more clutter to an already exhausted mind. Those who master silence understand that true peace comes not from escaping your thoughts, but from facing them in complete stillness. Scientific studies on the effects of silence on the brain. The power of silence isn't just a theory, it's backed by science. Researchers have discovered that silence has profound effects on brain function, improving everything from memory to focus. In a 2013 study by Duke University, scientists found that silence was more effective in stimulating brain cell growth than even relaxing music. The study observed that mice exposed to 2 hours of silence per day developed new neurons in the hippocampus, proving that silence is not an absence of activity, but rather an environment that allows the brain to reorganize and grow. Another study published in the Journal of Neuroscience found that silence enhances cognitive function by improving how the brain processes information. When there is no external noise, the brain shifts its focus inward, making it easier to retain knowledge, analyze problems, and generate new ideas. The conclusion? Silence doesn't just give your brain a break, it strengthens it. It increases neuroplasticity, which is the brain's ability to form new connections. This means that people who regularly practice silence can adapt better to challenges, learn faster, and maintain stronger mental health over time. The impact of silence on creativity and problem solving. Have you ever noticed that your best ideas don't come when you're in a meeting or a crowded space? They come when you're alone, taking a shower, walking in a quiet park, or simply sitting in silence. That's not a coincidence. Silence allows the brain to enter a state called the default mode network, DMN, the mental state responsible for creativity, insight, and deep thinking. When the brain is not actively engaged in external tasks, it starts making unexpected connections, leading to breakthroughs and original ideas. This is why some of the greatest minds in history valued silence. Steve Jobs, for example, was known for taking long, silent walks to think through ideas. Nikola Tesla spent hours in complete solitude, visualizing his inventions before even building them. Even J.K. Rowling, the author of Harry Potter, has spoken about how moments of silence allowed her imagination to create the world of Hogwarts. Yet most people unknowingly block their creative potential by filling every moment with noise. They listen to music while working, scroll through social media during breaks, and constantly seek stimulation. But true creativity thrives in silence. It is in the quiet moments that the mind becomes free to explore, imagine, and innovate. How being silent can improve your decision-making skills in a world where people rush to speak. Few take the time to think, but the ability to stay silent, especially in moments of pressure, can mean the difference between making a smart decision and making a costly mistake. One of the biggest reasons people make bad decisions is impulsiveness. When emotions are high, logic is low. Reacting too quickly often leads to regret, but silence creates space. It allows emotions to settle, facts to be analyzed, and the right course of action to become clear. Think about the most respected leaders and strategists. They don't rush to respond. They pause, they observe, they think, and when they finally speak, every word carries weight. Silence also helps in negotiations and social interactions. Many successful negotiators use a tactic called the strategic pause, a deliberate moment of silence after the other person speaks. This makes the other party uncomfortable, leading them to reveal more information or even offer a better deal. It's a psychological trick that works because most people are afraid of silence. They feel the need to fill it with words, often speaking more than they should. But those who are comfortable with silence gain the upper hand. The connection between silence and emotional intelligence, the ability to understand and manage emotions, is one of the most valuable skills in life, and silence plays a major role in developing it. People who talk too much often struggle to control their emotions. They react instead of respond. They vent instead of reflect. But silence teaches patience, self-awareness, and the ability to control impulses. Psychologists have found that practicing silence helps regulate emotions by increasing activity in the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for rational thinking. When you remain silent instead of reacting emotionally, you strengthen this part of the brain, making it easier to stay calm under pressure. Silence also improves listening skills, which is a key part of emotional intelligence. Most people don't listen to understand, they listen to reply. They are so focused on what they want to say next, that they miss what's actually being said. But those who embrace silence develop the ability to truly hear others, making them more empathetic and emotionally intelligent. Before we talk about the practical benefits of silence, we need to understand its deeper meaning. Silence is not just a tool for focus or a strategy for success. It is something sacred. Across different cultures, religions, and philosophies, silence has always been seen as a pathway to enlightenment, wisdom, and inner peace. From the monks of Tibet to the Stoic philosophers of ancient Rome, those who sought truth and higher understanding often chose silence as their greatest ally. But why? What is it about silence that connects so deeply with the spiritual side of human existence? How silence plays a role in meditation and mindfulness. Meditation is the art of stillness. Not just physical stillness, but mental stillness. And at the heart of meditation is silence. In every form of meditation, from Buddhist Zen practices to Hindu dhyana, silence is the foundation. It is in silence that the mind slows down, the ego fades, and awareness expands. When external noise disappears, the internal voice becomes clearer. And when even that voice quiets down, a person reaches a state of pure presence. Scientific research has confirmed that silence during meditation has powerful effects on the brain. Studies using MRI scans have shown that meditation strengthens the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for decision-making and self-control. It also reduces activity in the amygdala, the brain's fear center, which helps lower anxiety and stress. But meditation is not just about relaxation. It is about transformation. When practiced in deep silence, it rewires the brain, making a person more resilient, focused, and emotionally balanced. This is why many of the most enlightened figures in history have spent years, even decades, in silent meditation. The significance of silence in spiritual practices. Silence is found at the core of nearly every major spiritual tradition. It is seen as a gateway to truth, a way to connect with something beyond the physical world. In Christianity, silence is a form of devotion. Monks in monasteries practice the great silence, a rule that forbids unnecessary speech after evening prayers. This tradition is based on the belief that God speaks in stillness, as written in the Bible. Be still and know that I am God. Psalm 46:10. In Buddhism, silence represents wisdom. The Buddha himself was known for his quiet presence, and many of his teachings emphasize the importance of speaking only when necessary. One of his famous sayings is, "Better than 1,000 hollow words is one word that brings peace." In Sufism, the mystical branch of Islam, silence is considered a path to divine knowledge. The great Persian poet Rumi once wrote, "Silence is the language of God. All else is poor translation." Sufis believe that in silence, the heart speaks louder than the mind, allowing a person to experience a deeper connection with the universe. Even in indigenous traditions, silence is a sign of wisdom and respect. Native American cultures teach that silence allows a person to hear the voice of nature and the spirit world. The Lakota Sioux have a saying, "Silence is the absolute poise or balance of body, mind and spirit." The man who preserves his selfhood is silent. Through all these examples, one thing is clear. Silence is not emptiness. It is fullness. It is the space where the deepest truths reveal themselves. Silent retreats and their transformational effects. For centuries, people have sought silence not just in daily life, but through extended retreats, periods of complete solitude and quiet. Silent retreats have been practiced in monasteries, temples, and remote locations where people disconnect from speech, technology, and distractions to reconnect with themselves. One of the most famous forms of silent retreat is the Vipassana meditation retreat, originating from ancient India. In these retreats, participants spend 10 days in total silence. No talking, no writing, no reading, no eye contact. The purpose is to train the mind to observe reality as it is, without judgment or distraction. Many who complete these retreats report life-changing experiences, saying that silence helped them confront their deepest fears, emotions, and mental patterns. In Japan, Zen monks practice sesshin, an intensive meditation retreat, where they remain in silence for days or even weeks. The goal is to break free from the constant chatter of the mind and experience enlightenment through direct awareness. In Christianity, the practice of desert retreats goes back to the early hermits who lived in the Egyptian desert, seeking God in silence. These retreats continue today, with modern spiritual seekers choosing to spend time in monasteries, away from the distractions of the world. Psychologists who have studied the effects of silent retreats have found that they lead to profound changes in the brain. The default mode network, which is responsible for self-referential thoughts and overthinking, becomes less active. Stress hormones decrease, and the brain enters a state of heightened awareness and clarity. But the real transformation happens on a personal level. In silence, people face themselves without distraction. They become more in tune with their thoughts, emotions, and inner truth. And for many, this experience is more powerful than any words could ever express. Stories of monks, saints, and philosophers who mastered silence throughout history. Some of the wisest and most enlightened individuals have chosen silence as a way of life. They understood that silence was not just about speaking less, but about listening more, listening to the world, to wisdom, and to the depths of their own souls. Lao Tzu, the ancient Chinese philosopher and author of the Tao Te Ching, was known for his belief in the power of silence. He taught that those who spoke too much often lacked wisdom, while those who remained silent understood the nature of life. One of his most famous teachings is silence is a source of great strength. Pythagoras, the Greek philosopher and mathematician, required his students to take a vow of silence for 5 years before they could even begin learning from him. He believed that only those who could control their speech were truly ready to understand the mysteries of the universe. Saint Benedict, the founder of the Benedictine monastic order, emphasized silence as a way to purify the soul. He created the rule of Saint Benedict, which instructed monks to avoid unnecessary speech and practice deep contemplation. His teachings shaped the practice of silence in Christian monasteries for centuries. In modern times, Mahatma Gandhi practiced mauna, the vow of silence, for 1 day each week. He believed that silence gave him the clarity to make wise decisions and the strength to lead a nation. Even in the midst of political chaos, he remained committed to silence as a source of inner power. And then there's the Dalai Lama, the spiritual leader of Tibetan Buddhism, who spends hours each day in silent meditation. When asked about the importance of silence, he once said, "When you talk, you are only repeating what you already know. But if you remain silent, you may learn something new." All of these figures, despite living in different times and cultures, understood the same truth. Silence is not emptiness. It is a path to wisdom, strength, and enlightenment. Before we talk about how to use silence as a tool in daily life, let's consider this. Have you ever noticed how the most respected people in a room are often the quietest? They don't rush to speak. They don't try to dominate conversations, yet when they do say something, everyone listens. This is the power of silence. It's not just the absence of words. It's a strategy. It's a way to think, observe, and respond with clarity instead of reacting out of impulse. In every area of life, from relationships to leadership, silence can be your greatest strength. But how do you use it effectively? How to use silence in conversations to gain respect? Most people believe that talking makes them look smart. They try to fill every gap in conversation, thinking that more words equal more influence. But in reality, the opposite is true. Silence, when used correctly, makes people take you more seriously. It forces them to listen when you finally speak. This is a technique used by great leaders, public speakers, and negotiators. Instead of talking excessively, they pause. They let their words sink in. They allow the silence to create weight and impact. Consider this. If someone asks you a difficult question, what happens when you pause before answering? The room becomes quiet. The other person starts wondering what you're thinking. The silence builds anticipation, making your response seem even more important. This is why skilled speakers, like former US President Barack Obama, use intentional pauses in their speeches. The silence itself makes their words more powerful. Silence also makes you a better listener. Instead of focusing on what to say next, you pay attention to what's being said. You notice things others miss: body language, tone, hidden meanings. And when you respond, your words carry more depth because they come from a place of understanding rather than just wanting to be heard. Why listening more and talking less makes you wiser? There's a reason why wise people speak less. They know that real knowledge comes from observing and listening, not just talking. Ancient philosophers, from Socrates to Confucius, believed that silence was the key to wisdom. Socrates, for example, was known for asking questions rather than giving long speeches. He believed that by listening more he could uncover deeper truths. Modern psychology supports this idea. Studies show that people who actively listen, without interrupting, judging, or immediately responding, are better at problem solving and emotional regulation. Their minds process information more efficiently because they give themselves time to think before speaking. But most people do the opposite. They listen to reply, not to understand. They are so focused on getting their point across that they miss valuable insights. Those who master silence, however, become better thinkers. They learn from others instead of just pushing their own opinions. The next time you're in a conversation, try this. Instead of jumping in with your thoughts, stay quiet. Let the other person talk. Watch how they reveal more than they intended. You'll be surprised how much you can learn just by staying silent a little longer. The role of silence in personal relationships. Silence is often misunderstood in relationships. Some see it as distance or coldness, but in reality, silence can be a powerful tool for connection. Think about the best relationships, whether romantic, friendships, or family bonds. The strongest ones don't need constant talking. They have moments of comfortable silence where no words are needed. These moments create a deeper connection than forced conversations ever could. Silence also prevents unnecessary arguments. Many conflicts escalate, not because of the issue itself, but because people react too quickly. A heated argument can be avoided simply by taking a moment of silence before responding. Instead of saying something regrettable, you give yourself space to think. In relationships, silence can also show strength. If someone tries to provoke you, remaining silent can be more powerful than engaging. It signals confidence and self-control. Instead of reacting emotionally, you communicate that you are in control of yourself. Using silence to control emotions and avoid unnecessary conflicts. One of the hardest things to do in life is to stay silent when emotions are high. But those who master this skill gain immense power over their lives. Imagine a situation where someone insults you. The natural reaction is to defend yourself, to fight back. But what if you said nothing? What if you just let their words hang in the air, unchallenged? Most people are uncomfortable with silence. When they don't get a reaction, they start to doubt themselves. They feel awkward, even powerless. Your silence makes them question their words more than any argument ever could. This is why silence is often called the weapon of the strong. It allows you to stay in control, even in difficult situations. Instead of reacting emotionally, you maintain your power by choosing not to engage. This technique is used by great leaders and negotiators. When facing aggression or manipulation, they stay silent instead of reacting impulsively. This forces the other person to reveal more, to second-guess their own words. It shifts the balance of power in your favor. The difference between selective silence and ignorance. Some people confuse silence with ignorance or weakness. But there's a big difference between being silent strategically and being silent out of fear or avoidance. Selective silence means choosing when to speak and when to hold back. It means knowing that not every situation requires a response. Sometimes, silence speaks louder than words. For example, in an argument, silence can signal confidence. If someone is trying to provoke you, and you remain calm, it shows that their words don't affect you. On the other hand, if you stay silent when you should stand up for yourself, that's not power, that's avoidance. Understanding the balance is key. Silence should be a tool, not a shield. It should be used with intention, not as an escape. Practical ways to implement silence daily. Now that we understand the power of silence, how do we apply it in daily life? Here are some simple but effective ways. Practice daily moments of silence. Set aside time each day to sit in silence. No music, no distractions, just you and your thoughts. Even 5 minutes can have a profound effect on your mental clarity. Use silence before responding. In conversations, pause before you speak. Give yourself a moment to think. This prevents impulsive reactions and makes your words more impactful. Try silent meditation. Meditation is one of the best ways to train your mind to be comfortable with silence. Start with a few minutes a day and gradually increase. Focus on your breath, let go of thoughts, and embrace the stillness. Keep a journal. Writing in silence is another powerful way to reflect. Journaling allows you to organize your thoughts, process emotions, and develop self-awareness. Take breaks from noise. Throughout the day, take short breaks from noise. Step away from your phone, turn off background music, and just sit in silence. These small moments help reset your mind. Use silence as a social tool. In conversations, practice listening more than speaking. Observe body language, tone, and emotions. You'll gain more insight than if you were just focused on talking. Embrace solitude. Spend time alone without distractions. Go for a walk in nature, sit in a quiet room, or simply be with yourself. Solitude is not loneliness. It's a way to reconnect with your true self. Silence is not just an absence of words. It is a presence of power. It is a force that sharpens the mind, strengthens emotions, and deepens understanding. It is a tool used by the wisest thinkers, the greatest leaders, and those who seek true mastery over themselves and their lives. Think back to everything we've explored in this video. The psychological benefits, the spiritual depth, the practical applications in relationships, conversations, and self-growth. Every great mind throughout history, Buddha, Socrates, Gandhi, and countless others, understood that silence was not a weakness, but a weapon. It gave them clarity, discipline, and wisdom, beyond what constant talking could ever achieve. Now imagine if you embrace silence in your own life. Imagine how different your days would feel if you weren't constantly reacting, if you weren't rushing to fill every empty space with words. What if instead of speaking out of impulse, you spoke with purpose? What if instead of drowning in noise, you created moments of stillness? How practicing silence consistently leads to better mental clarity and wisdom. Most people never take time to pause. They are so consumed by distractions, social media, endless conversations, constant entertainment, that they never allow their minds to rest. But here's the truth. Growth happens in the quiet moments. Silence allows you to think before you speak. It gives you the ability to process emotions instead of reacting emotionally. It helps you observe the world with more clarity, noticing things others overlook. When you stay silent, you learn. When you listen more, you understand more. And when you understand more, you make better decisions. Silence is the foundation of wisdom. It helps you hear your own thoughts clearly, without the influence of outside noise. It gives you the patience to handle difficult situations with grace. It allows you to control your emotions instead of letting your emotions control you. The people who achieve the most in life are often the ones who have mastered this art. They speak with intention, not just to fill space. They listen deeply, not just to respond. They understand that words are powerful, but silence can be even more powerful when used wisely. Encouragement to embrace silence in daily life. If you want to start using silence as a strength, you don't need to make drastic changes. You don't need to go on a 10-day silent retreat, or live like a monk. It starts with small, simple actions. Take a few minutes each day to sit in silence. No distractions, no phone, just you and your thoughts. In conversations, listen more than you speak. Observe, understand, and then respond with intention. When emotions rise, pause before reacting. Let silence give you control over your response. Use silence as a tool for self-reflection. Write in a journal, meditate, or take a quiet walk alone. Cut out unnecessary noise. Limit mindless scrolling, background distractions, and meaningless chatter. At first, silence may feel uncomfortable. It may even feel unnatural, but the more you practice, the more you'll see its power. You'll start noticing things others don't. You'll develop a level of patience and understanding that sets you apart. You'll feel more in control of your emotions, your decisions, and your life. Final motivational push. Start using silence as a strength. Right now you have a choice. You can continue as you are, speaking without thinking, reacting without reflecting, letting noise control your life. Or you can start using silence as your advantage. You can learn to pause, to listen, to observe. You can become the person who speaks with wisdom, not just with words. The greatest transformations don't happen in the middle of chaos. They happen in moments of stillness. When you embrace silence, you open yourself up to deeper understanding, greater strength, and true inner peace. So take this message and apply it. The next time you feel the urge to speak without thinking, pause. The next time you face conflict, stay silent and observe. The next time life feels overwhelming, find a moment of stillness. Watch how your life begins to change. If you found value in this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel, Denzel Motivation. Let's build a community of people who embrace wisdom, strength, and silence. Share this video with someone who needs to hear this message, and let us know in the comments how silence has impacted your life. Stay strong, stay silent, and watch how everything begins to come to you naturally. See you in the next video.